Okay, so moving on from Yud Tes Kislev to this week's Parsha, which is Parshas Vayeshev. And continuing on that theme, like that theme that the Alter Rebbe understood, that if something was happening here in the physical world, if he was being imprisoned here in the physical world, it meant that something was happening in the spiritual world. And the understanding of this is that when we see things happening here in this world, there's reasons for it. And I think this is such an important idea, it's such an important concept. And we're going to see that actually in this week's Torah portion as well. That sometimes what we see in this world is, it seems like it's one way, but there's a deeper understanding. And that deeper understanding is that nothing happens in this world unless it's for something good. That's the concept. And this is a concept that the Alter Rebbe taught us, that everything that happens here in this world, it feels like it's bad, it feels like it's not good, it feels like it's darkness, but really it is underneath it, nothing bad comes from God, and there's going to be a positive outcome. Hopefully we'll see it, and sometimes we don't unfortunately see it, but there's something good that's going to come from it. And we see this with this in this week's Torah portion. So let's start off with, the portion starts with Yosef. Yosef was the second youngest of Yaakov's children, the oldest of Rachel's children, and he was very beloved by his father. His father loved him. He made him that coat of arms. If any of you watched the, what's the movie called? Joseph
and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat.
Okay, thank you. So we all know about the beautiful colored coat that his father gave him. And so obviously, this was something that he felt, the brothers felt resentment against him, that he was so favored by his father. Now, it didn't help that Yosef actually had dreams, and he shared his dreams with his brother. He had two dreams, and in the first dream, he shares with his brothers that he says, "We are all gathering sheaves of corn, ears of corn in the field, and your sheaves bow down to my sheaf." Okay. Yeah, that might be a little touchy, right? Then he says, "And I dreamed another dream. And in this dream, all the stars, there's 11 stars, and the sun and the moon, and everyone is bowing down to me." And in this one, he included his father and his either his mother or his mother's maidservant, Bilhah. Everyone was bowing down to him. Now, we know that this actually does happen, not in this week's Torah portion, but in the future when he becomes the viceroy of Egypt and his brothers come to him to ask for grain, he is the one that gives it to them. And they have to bow down. They all bow down to him asking for the grain. So this does actually happen, and he is actually the one, these dreams do get fulfilled. And he was trying to, like the dreams, there's two parts to the dream. One part to the dream is that he's supplying them with food. He's supplying them with the food. Their sheaves are bowing down to his, which means on a material level, he's giving them something, which happens later on. Him as the leader is giving them material prosperity. He's giving them what they need, the food that they need. On a spiritual level, though, he's also saying, I'm giving you insight. Because the way that Yosef lived his life, it was Yosef in Egypt. He was the viceroy. He was in this most corrupt place of Egypt, but he remained Yosef Hatzadik, the righteous Yosef. In other words, he's showing them, the brothers thought that the way they had to practice their Judaism was very isolated. They didn't have the strength to affect the world. So they lived their life as shepherds by themselves, taking care of the sheep, away from society, away from everything. And Yosef is teaching them a deeper insight. So the first way he's teaching them, I'm giving you actual food, but now I'm giving you actually advice, actual insight, that you can live in this world, even in the world of Mitzrayim, the most corrupt place on the world, in this earth, and be the head of Mitzrayim, and be so steeped in that society, but completely above it, completely not involved in it. And this was a lesson that he's teaching his brothers. So that was the two dreams that he had that he shares with his brothers. What happens next is that they decide that they're going to do something, to harm him, to get rid of him. And they plot, and we can go into why they did it and all that, but let's keep to the surface for right now. They plot against him, and Reuven actually says, oh, there's a pit here, let's throw him in the pit. Instead of killing him, let's just throw him in the pit. And then Yehuda sees when Reuven goes off, his intention was, I'm going to take him out afterwards and save him. But Yehuda comes by later when Reuven is gone, and he says, oh, instead of killing him, let's sell him. There's a caravan of Ishmaelites. Let's sell him to this caravan of Ishmaelites instead of killing him. And so they did. And then he's brought down to Egypt. They take his coat, they bloody it, and they present it to their father, and they say Yosef must have been torn apart by some wild beast. And that's the explanation that they give to their father Yaakov. Meanwhile, Yaakov is transported down to Egypt, where he is sold to the house of Potiphar. Potiphar is the person who slaughters Paro, the king of Egypt. He's the head of the slaughterhouse of the king of Egypt. And Yosef becomes a servant in his house, but quickly works his way up until he's actually made the overseer of the entire house. He sees the wisdom that Yosef has, the capability and the talent that he has, and Yosef is made in charge of the entire house of Potiphar. Everything seems to be going okay until Potiphar's wife decides she really wants Yosef, and she's going to try to get him. This handsome boy, she wants him. Remember, he's really only 17 years old at the time. He's alone. He's alone in this faraway place. No brothers, no siblings. His siblings want to kill him, and he's out in this place. And she tries to entice him every day. So she would put on different clothes, beautiful clothes, in order to lure him. And one day her husband is gone, and she's really trying to entice him to be with her. And he refuses, and he runs away. And when he runs away, she is degraded, and she tells her husband, it was Yosef who tried to force himself on me. You must take him and you must put him in prison. Horrible, horrible person. She's obviously angry about what has happened. And the commentators say she would really, really incite him, like she would say to him in the middle of their intimacy, oh, this is what Yosef did to me, or this is how he behaved to me, in order to really get her husband's anger. And her husband, who really likes Yosef, ends up throwing him in prison. And that's where Yosef is in prison, and he hears about there's the officer the baker and the person who brings the drinks for Paro, who are also thrown into prison, and he interprets their dream, and this eventually gets to Paro himself. But let's talk for a moment about Potiphar's wife. So this was obviously a huge challenge for Yosef. Here's Potiphar's wife doing it. Now, interestingly, the commentaries say that Potiphar's wife intended for the good. She really intended for the good. Her intentions were l'shem shamayim, were for a positive reason. She knew from astronomical calculations, she was very familiar with astronomy, and in those days astronomy was real. It was a real field, and she understood that she would have children from Yosef, that she would have descendants from Yosef. So she assumed that she would have descendants from Yosef, so those descendants would be from her and Yosef. She didn't realize that she had a daughter whose name was Asnas, who later does marry Yosef. It says Asner bas Potiphara, the same Potiphar who put him in jail. I mean, imagine the mother-in-law, his daughter, his son-in-law relationship here, right? But the same Asnas, who was the daughter of Potiphar, is the one that later marries Yosef. And there's a whole...
original Schwiger.
She's the first figure, exactly. Yes. So, and we're told actually that Asnas who marries Yosef was actually the daughter of Dinah. Remember we spoke about Dinah last week. Dinah, when she was raped by Shechem, she became pregnant, and this daughter was sent away, and this daughter ended up in Egypt, and this daughter had a necklace around her neck that says, I'm the daughter, a child of Yaakov, a grandchild of Yaakov, and it was Yosef who ends up marrying this Dinah. A whole chain of events that come about. But what I found very interesting is that the Torah says that this Potiphar's wife, who seems like, such a horrible person. I mean, here you have such a good kid. He's a good kid working for you in your house, and he's so honest, and he's doing everything so beautifully, and he worked his way up, and he's alone, and here, this is how you mistreat him, this is how you handle it. So, you're on a first read, it seems like a horrible thing that she was doing, but the commentaries exonerate her and say her intentions were for the good. And from this, I think we need to understand something that, again, exactly what we were saying about the Alter Rebbe. Whenever anything happens in this world, it's because in different worlds, there's a plan and there's a reason. Just like by the Alter Rebbe, he could not reveal these wisdoms of teachings, of Torah teachings, because in the upper worlds, there was this controversy. Should it be revealed? In the same way, Potiphar's wife really intended for the good, because she would have a child from Yosef, who she eventually did have. And from here we learn something that's very, very important. And that is, what is our reaction to challenges in our life? How do we look at stumbling blocks in our life? How do we look at something that is a struggle in our life? Do we see ourselves as victims of this circumstance? Or do we see it as a way to overcome it? How do we look at something? Do we see it as, I have to fight against it, which sometimes we do have to fight against it. I'm fighting against the darkness. Or do we see this darkness is actually going to reveal something stronger in me? And we see this with the Alter Rebbe. When he was put into prison, he comes out and he teaches Chassidus even more so. He teaches it even stronger and even more of it. And we see this with Yosef as well. He comes out as a stronger individual as a result of everything that he had gone through. So this was a path that he had to go through, and he was put into prison, but what ends up happening? He becomes the second in command to Paro. So this was all a plan of action that seems like he's now landed in the worst possible place. This poor kid has been sold by his brothers, brought down in a caravan, sold as a slave, finally works his way up. It seems like things are finally going a little bit better for him, and then he's thrown into prison. But the whole point of him being thrown into prison was then that he interprets the dreams and is later brought to Paro and becomes the second in command of the whole land of Egypt, which wouldn't have happened if he was just staying in Potiphar's house. And this is what we say. There's a quote from Torah that says, Yisron ha'or min ha'choshech, the advantage of light from the darkness. So on a basic level, it means the advantage of light over darkness. Like, obviously there's an advantage of light. Light is advantageous over darkness, right? We all see how light is something so positive. But on a deeper level, it's saying, Yisron ha'or, the advantage of light, min ha'choshech, is from the darkness. Mm-hmm. Meaning, the advantage of light, the idea of you becoming free as a person, is when you work through the darkness. When we work through the challenges of our lives, through the struggles of our lives, you can't go over the struggles. You have to actually go through them. You have to go min hachoshech. You have to go through the darkness. When you've been through the darkness, when you've been through the difficulty, that actually enables you to become a stronger person and enables you to have a spiritual and emotional and psychological strength that otherwise you wouldn't have had. And this is very clear from what happens here. And that's why the Alter Rebbe teaches us, no evil descends from above. When we sometimes see evil, it looks like evil, it tastes like evil, it feels like evil, it feels horrible, it feels like real darkness. But ultimately, it's the descent for the sake of a greater asset. So we can sometimes see a situation that feels like it's such desperate despair, and it feels that way, and we don't always even understand how it's not going to be. But ultimately, the reason why it's coming to us is to bring out a stronger strength within us, somehow, with us personally or with us collectively as the Jewish people. Do you want to ask something, Marlene? No.
No, I'm thinking it could take a lifetime.
It could take many lifetimes. It could take generations.
Yeah. It could be a problem.
It could be a problem, yes. But what's the alternative? You know, the alternative is going through life as a victim and going through life saying, this is horrible. I'm seeing everything as something that is going to stop me. It's going to stop me. And I have to either fight against it, or if I can't fight against it, this is going to destroy me. And the alternative is say, this is not destroying me. This is going to make me. I'm going to learn from this situation, and I'm going to develop from this situation to become stronger in whatever way I can. I'm going to use this situation not to become a victim, not to have victim mentality, but I'm going to use this struggle as something that is going to bring out the light, from this darkness will come the light, but it's up to me to actually make it happen.
So with that in mind, it doesn't have to take a lifetime.
True. You're right. It doesn't have to take a lifetime if you can just see it in that way, 100%. Even if you're still confronting the darkness, even if you're still confronting the challenge. Maybe the whole purpose of what you're going through is just so that you can get through it, and just that you should survive through it. Not even prosper, but deal with it. Deal with it on a daily, day-to-day basis. That alone is succeeding. That alone is success. Right? And it's kind of a shift in the way that we think about it. Okay, so interestingly, when we see the next dreams, there's a lot of dreams in this week's Torah portion, but the next dreams that I want to speak about is the dreams that Yosef interprets of Paro. What were Paro's dreams? Paro dreamt a dream, and he asked all the people around the land to interpret his dream. He was very perturbed by his dreams. He dreamt also 2 dreams. Just like Yosef's original 2 dreams, he also dreamt 2 dreams. What was his dreams? He dreamed that there was ears of corn, there was very thin, scrawny, thin ones, and there were big, fat ones. And the thin ones swallowed the fat ones, but they stayed skinny. Sounds actually good, right? Can you imagine if we could do that? But yeah, that was his dream. That was his first dream. And then he dreamt another dream. And what was the other dream? It was that there were these cows, and the thin cows swallowed the fat cows. And again, they remained very skinny and scrawny. And of course, Yosef interpreted these dreams that there's going to be a famine. There's first these years of plenty, and afterwards they will be followed by years of a famine. And let's prepare now for the famine by making sure that when there is so much plenty, we put aside and we create storehouses and we create a whole system so that we will have the plenty when we need it. And this was what Paro heard, his interpretation, and not only his interpretation, but his explanation of what can we do, what solution can we do for this problem. And he said, this is a person that I want. This is a person that I need to be my viceroy. But let's try to contrast the 2 dreams. The dream of Yosef, ones that he told his brothers originally, and the dreams of Paro that he's dreaming. So the dreams of Yosef, if we remember, what was his 2 dreams that he told his brothers? The first dream was?
The sheaves.
The sheaves.
Lying down.
Right.
And then the stars.
And the stars, exactly, where they were all bowing down to Yosef. So if we look at Yosef's dream, Yosef is, of course, in the realm of holiness. Yosef is dreaming something that, first he's dreaming physical things, sheaves, right? Physical food on the material level. But then he's dreaming something on the spiritual level. The stars, the sun, the moon, they're all bowing down to him. He's going from this world to the spiritual world. He's going from this world, the physical world, to the spiritual realm. And this teaches us something about ourselves. When we're on, Yosef represents the side of holiness. When we are holy, when we're people that are working towards holy, you raise yourself up. You go from the material to the spiritual. And not only do you go from the material to the spiritual, but even when you're in the material, you make it spiritual. We have material things and we have a spiritual dream. You take your material reality and you bring it to spirituality. You take the physical world and you infuse it with spirituality. That was what Yosef's dream are showing us, that you need to rise. You can't just leave things in the realm of material reality, of the physical, but everything physical we take and we utilize for something spiritual. How do we do this? Give me examples. We all just said a bracha, exactly. We say a bracha on something. We host, we host people in our homes. So we create from the physical dimensions of our lives, we create the spiritual entity. We always need to rise from the physical to the spiritual. There was one of the Chabad Rebbes who wanted to give his children a lesson. He calls in his the butler in his house, and he says, Ben Sion, that was the name of the person who was the attendant in his house. And he says to him, Ben Sion, tell me, did you eat today? He says, yes, I ate, I'm satisfied. He says, did you eat well? He says, I ate to be satisfied, I'm satisfied with what I ate. And tell me, why do you eat? He says, I eat so I can live. And why do you want to live? And here he says, I want to live because I want to be a Jew who serves God. And as he's saying, who serves God, he gives this big sigh. And the Rebbe tells his children, you see, this is what a Jew is all about. A Jew wants to take physical reality, take the food. Why? So that he can live. Why does he want to live? He wants to live so he can serve God and do mitzvot. He can connect with God. He can serve God and do mitzvot. But he sighs as he's saying it because he feels like he's trying, but it's not always working. It's not always so easy. So he sighs because he feels like he wants to do better. But this is what a Jew does. We take physical reality and we try to bring it into something more spiritual. On the other hand, when we look at Paro's dream was, first of all, no one's working here, right? No one's working. The dream is just the sheaves, the corn. No one's working. Yosef's dream is we're all working in the field and we're gathering these sheaves of corn, these sheaves of corn. In Paro's dream, no one's working. The things are just being swallowed by the other. The skinny ones, scrawny ones are being swallowed by the other ones. The skinny cows are swallowing the fat cows. No one is working. There isn't work that's being done. It's just happening. And that's really the realm of the unholy. We think that things just happen. We don't think that we need to work for it. In the spiritual realm, we're working for things to happen. We need to work for things to happen. We need to put in that effort. It's only with that effort that we can achieve. In the unholy realm, we think that things just happen by themselves. Moreover, we see in Paro's dream, there is no spiritual reality. There is no moon, stars, and sun. Everything is the physical reality. His dreams are all about corn, cows, physical things. We're not taking the physical thing and then making it into something spiritual, but it's remaining as something very, very physical. And that's really the difference between the spiritual realm and the physical realm and the unholy realm and the spiritual realm. And one more point. In Yosef's dream, what was Yosef's first dream in the physical dream? He says, we're standing in the field, me and my brothers, and we're all gathering sheaves, right? These bundles of sheaves of corn. And your sheaves are bowing down to mine. So what is his dream? We're all gathering. We're all working in this field. We're in this field and we're all working, and we're taking these individual ears and we're putting them together. We're bringing them all together. And really, this is the point of why we're all here in this world. We're all here in this field. We're all here in the field of this world. And our point is to gather different parts, different ears of corn from all around us, gathering them all together and making them into one united container. And then that united container is bowing down to Yosef, to the tzaddik. So what does this mean? It means we're all here working in this field. This field is the world. And when we look at the world, you look at everything, seems like it's very fragmented. There's so many different parts. There's so many individual parts. And you look around you and you see different people, and every person is doing their own thing. And we don't see the unity in the whole. We don't see the unity in what we're doing. We don't see the unity in others around us. Everything seems like it's its own being and its own separate being from God also. I'm just my own self. I'm an independent person. I don't have to do what God wants. I'm a very independent person who's doing what I want in this world. And you're an independent person, and you're after your dreams and your goals, and you are after yours. And the physical reality around me, nothing is cohesive. There's rain, there's snow, there's nature, there's hurricanes, there's money, everything is its own separate entity. And we're saying, no, that's not what this world is about. There's all these separate entities, and the point is to gather them together, to bring everything together, to bring all these disparate units, all these separate things, all these things that seem like they're separate and seem like they're even separate from God himself. And the point is to bring them all together. And even in our own selves, there's all these different pulls that we have, all these different drives that we have, all these different motivations and wants and desires. And we need to bring them all together, to unify them all, in order to do what? In order to bow down to Yosef HaTzadik, in order to become subservient to a higher goal, a higher being, a higher purpose. Yosef represents this vision of what we're supposed to be doing, this tzaddik, of how we're supposed to conduct our lives. So the message of Yosef's dream is really, look around your world and don't see everything separate. Don't see everything fragmented. Don't see everything as its own individual idea and purpose. Let's bring it all together and see how we are all connected. As people, we're connected. We have a mission. And even as our own individuals, all the different drives within me are all connected to one purpose and one mission. And that one purpose and mission is to serve God, to bow down, to make our will God's will. And that's really what our purpose here in this world is all about. And if you look at the word for galut, for exile, the word is gola, gimel vav lamed hey. If we look at the word for redemption, the word is geula, which is the same letters, exact same letters, gola and geula, except one letter. Which is the letter? The extra letter? Gola, geula, the aleph, the aleph. And the idea is, what is Gola? Gola means exile, that we live these fragmented lives, that we're pulled in so many different directions, and we feel like we're so disconnected from everyone around us. And even within ourselves, we feel so many pulls and so many drives. We feel so disconnected with our real self. We don't really know who we are. That's what exile is. These fragmented individuals in this fragmented world amongst others who are also fragmented, being pulled in their own direction. And what is Geula? What is living a redeemed life? What is the Messianic era? What is it all about? It's the same world, but we're bringing down that Aleph. What is Aleph? Aleph is one, unity. We're infusing unity within the disparity. We're taking unity, and the unity of what? Aleph stands for Aleph, one, and Alufo Shel Olam, the master of the world. We're saying we're bringing the master of the world into creation. Because when you look at the physical reality and you see the physical reality, it seems like there's so many different things here. So many things, so many people going in their own direction. But when you bring down the Alufo Shel Olam, the master of the world, that Aleph reality into creation, you see we're united. All of us are united. All of us are connected. And this goes back to what we're saying. If you can look at another person as a chelak elokami mal mamish, as an actual godly being, a godly soul, you see the godliness within creation. And you see that we are all here in a direction, in a very directed way, to culminating in an actual purpose. The world itself is coming in a direction, and we can see, thank God, all the miracles that we've started to see in the last little while of things moving in that direction towards the time period of Mashiach, where things are starting to get better, and we're trying to get to that. But the world is on a journey, and the journey, and we're almost there. There's bumps in the journey, and we've had a lot of bumps in the journey, but we're getting there. And we as individuals as well, we're also here for that same purpose. We're getting there in that direction. We're part of this unity, part of this force, going in that direction towards the culmination of what we're here for, the purpose of what we're here for. And it's only when you can bring down that Aleph awareness, that unified awareness, that we can enter into this new realm of Geula, of redemption. And may we use the teachings that we've learned and use the teachings of the Hasidic thought that we keep on teaching and learning from to actually see the thread that's uniting all of us and connecting all of us and connecting all the actions in our world. May we actually see it with our own eyes and actually feel it and see how we're all advancing and how the world is advancing to that time period. And may it actually happen very, very quickly.
Amen.